be all right. That was pretty much the way I was raised. Don't do that. You don't kill. You don't lie. You don't steal. You don't. You don't do all these things. Don't do all these things that your daddy's doing.
Right. Our job, I think, is to meet people where they are and to help them shape their lives in such a way that Christ affects every aspect of their life. And we have to be living that out at the exact same, in the exact same way at the exact same time, whatever the case may be.
I like that illustration you said about making it a God-centered. Because I think about, if we're built upon the foundation of Christ, that foundation will not move, it won't break, or anything like that. So if we're like a pillar that's literally in the ground on that bedrock, then we will be okay with how the waves come in, how the sand moves, over 1,000 years. That bedrock's still going to be there, and we're not going to move. But our culture will change. The way the tide will be different. The way we have to respond to people will always be different, because that will always be emotion. And so I think that's part of the difficulty, because so many things is here and now, and then also in the future. It's as simple as just belief, but it's so much more complex than just belief. And all that, as long as you're built upon Christ, and everything else works itself out. And we're not alone in that. That discipleship is so important. But that's a good illustration.
Yeah, I wonder. I wonder if people who have the fire insurance mentality are just simply fearful of what might be chiseled away through discipleship. What happens when you chisel just a little piece off? Is something going to? We are afraid of what that is going to look like. We are afraid of almost the unknown. I have to admit, I will fear the unknown, and what could come about that. But
still jump off some 75-foot tall rock.
Yeah. And we're almost fearful of what would come about. And when you start chiseling, that is going to expose something that will expose something that we've never seen before. Ultimately could be a weakness. And then people will say, oh man, then we'll think in our own minds that other people are looking at us as if, well, they're not as Christian as they claim to be. In reality, they're saying, man, look how real that is. I had no idea that they struggled with this particular thing or that was going on in their lives. And, we are afraid to admit struggle or admit weakness, because then we're fearful of what the reaction is of the people around us.
Sorry to get off topic.
Oh no, it's fine. It's good, but I think a couple other things that he points out is, let me see, let me make sure I get the right page here. Around the bottom of page 140 into 141, it says, there are many questions that we could ask at this point. Where did God come from? What was he doing before he created? Why is he creating in the first place? But Genesis proceeds in a different manner. The author teaches us about God by simply telling us what he did. He created. And I think so often we get way too abstract with this whole thing and say, oh, this doesn't make sense. None of this, we understand that he created, but where did all of this come about before that, and what happened before that? And it's simply this. He created, and then he says we're going to find out so much more about God as the story unfolds. And at points we will get specific theological answers to some of the questions that we have. And he says that it's important to let the story drive our understanding of who God is. But we refuse to allow the story to drive that and to help shape it because we want to know all the stuff that he didn't tell us. When in reality, maybe he just doesn't want to reveal that to us.
That's why I have deleted scenes and DVDs. Otherwise, you have all the scrap that's in there.
Yeah.
I'm saying God would have scrap, but you don't reveal everything you can about a movie or about a story. You edit and you cut out stuff. This is God's story. He can cut out whatever he wants.
Yeah.
I mean, it's supplemental information that ultimately, when I sit there and watch deleted scenes on DVDs, I'm thinking, yeah, that needed to be cut, or yeah, that was really a waste of my time because that was 30 extra seconds of driving down the highway.
Yeah, I mean,
if he wanted us to know, he would have told us.
Yeah, he would have put in his
If
word.
He thought it was important.
You know, why don't we ever question the producers of movies or the directors of movies and say, well, how did you get to this final product? What did you do beforehand? You know, and we don't question how they came up with the story. We don't question how all this stuff. Now you can get some of that in the commentary of DVDs and stuff, but you know, once again, you go back to the unknown. We question the unknown because we can't see it, and we're fearful of what might come about of that. But on the other hand, then he takes a little bit of a turn, which I thought this was really, really cool. On page 144 in the book, he talks about 126 about how he created all this stuff, and then he talks about letting us make man in our image, after our likeness. And he says right after that, he said, there is something absolutely unique about humanity. He said, on the one hand, we are utterly unlike God because just like everything else in creation, he made us. But on the other hand, God specifically created us to be like him. And I wonder if we even view people as God's creation. You know, do we? You know, even the worst of sinners. You know, even the vilest offenders. Isn't that in a hymn somewhere? The vilest offenders. We'll sing that, but we don't really believe it. I think there is a hymn about having the vilest offenders in there. Maybe it's "To God Be the Glory" or something like that. We'll sing that, but in practice, we don't really mean it because we really don't want the vilest offender to show up to church. Could you imagine Charles Manson showing up at our church on Sunday morning? Man, people would be running. You know?
Yeah, I think it's easier for us, especially the group that comes here, to be more loving to the vilest of sinners. It's harder for us to see people that are wasting their time that we're frustrated with as God's image. The people that know, that really don't have an excuse for people like this lazy servant. It's harder for me specifically to view this person as the image of God. I can see, a child molester in prison. While I may not like you, I can feel sorry for you and understand that you're in God's image easier than I can someone else because of their background. Simply. But man, how different would that make each one of us talk to somebody?
That every encounter is a unique opportunity.
And we've got to overcome the judgmental attitude. That's the number one flaw. As long as we continue to judge people, we're not going to be able to effectively witness to them. We know that because our witness is tainted at that point. Because we're not going to be... when you think about it, who do we mostly find fault with? Our peers, the people in church.
Right.
Why is that? Because we surround ourselves with those people, and they're the predominant in the people that we associate with. So therefore, that's who we tend to find fault with. I mean, is that making sense?
Yeah, that does make sense.
Whereas if as a Christian in a community of Christians, we judge each other,
Yeah.
how am I not going to judge the pedophile? How am I not going to judge the alcoholic? How am I not going to judge the adulterer? I mean, all those things.
Yeah. Am
Hell,
I?
I can't get through the day without judging my brother.
Yeah.
And I know what he's doing, and he ain't doing none of that stuff.
Am I busier? Focus on the lack of the productivity in the church and getting pissed off about that than I am about going out and just simply, okay, forget it. You know, I'm just going to go out and do my job, despite whatever everybody else says. Forget you all. You know. And I think so often we get so frustrated that we focus on that frustration with the inner. Then it's almost like they sucked us in. Now we're inner focused, and they just allowed us to suck us in, and instead of us remaining outwardly focused and saying, forget you know.
And ultimately, it comes down to that. I believe that the judgmental nature, to find fault. You know, and once you profess to be something, immediately people's going to try to find fault with you.
Yeah.
You know, and the Scripture tells you that. You know, He says that you're going to be persecuted, you're going to be arrested, you're going to get killed, you're going to have all these things happen to you once you proclaim to be one of mine. Mm-hmm. And that's so true.
Yeah.
And we do it to each other.
Yeah. You know that kingdom against kingdom, nation against nation thing? I think Jesus said something about that somewhere.
Yeah.
I believe it's in the Bible, you know? And it's crazy. But I don't know, I think Francis Chan is doing a great job of really touching on the basics and bringing about the basics and helping us refocus on what that is. And that's what he's going to do over the next, I guess, 9 parts, 9 chapters, whatever you want to call it, is he's going to bring us back to the basics and help us get our understanding back to where it's supposed to be instead of where we have taken that understanding.
Still got 16 chapters to go.
I know. Still got a lot of theology left. So it'll be good. Next week we'll jump into 4.2.
Oh man,
the fall.
He's got a end of times chapter.
And then we'll have Matthew 25 next week, which should go probably pretty good with the fall, talking about sin, and then you have the judgment of sin in Matthew 25. So next week we'll jump into that, and it should be a great topic of discussion and powerful, a powerful word or whatever. So we'll see how it plays out, but move forward from there and keep kicking it. So, man, I hope you all have a great day out there, wherever you all might be. And, man, challenge today would be, in each and every encounter that you have, would be to look at people through the eyes of God, and to know that conversation that you have, instead of, hey, how you're doing, really dig into that person's life, could change that person's life forever. So, and each conversation you have today, make sure that it draws people into Christ for His glory. So have a blessed, peace day. Remember, keep Jesus on the main line.